Foley.
Yep.
You can start now.
Okay, thanks. Thank you both very much for coming.
You're welcome.
We'll just jump right in. My name is Liz Crisp. Mediation's an informal process, so you can feel free to call me Liz. Would you both introduce yourself? I'll just start on my left here.
My name is Courtney.
Courtney, okay. And Courtney Taylor.
Yes, that's
Okay.
okay.
And I'm Ross
Okay,
Lawrence.
nice to meet both of you. May I call you both by your first names?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so both of you signed an agreement to mediate before today, is that correct?
They took the hours for that.
Okay,
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
you did. Now, the agreement you signed says that everything today that we do is voluntary. You're not forced to agree anything today. But I think there are some advantages to the mediation process, and I'll just go through some of the basics of what we're going to do today. I wanted to commend you for both paying your $50 to participate in this process, because contrary to like a lawsuit, for example, it'll save you time and money by working together today to come up with an agreement if we get there. Also, it gives you more control over the outcomes. Instead of letting a judge decide, the two of you can work together and maybe come up with more of a workable solution that will help stop further disputes in the future. My role here is to assist you on how this matter can be resolved. So we're going to talk about interests and issues and options today, and it's your job to come up with those issues, interests, and options. I will, at the end, if we come into an agreement to mediate, I will then write that up into an enforceable agreement for you. I'm a lawyer by training, but I will not be giving either of you legal advice today. If you feel like you need legal advice, or if I feel like you're asking me a legal question, I'll then tell you that it's time for you to consult another lawyer at that time. The reason for that is because being a mediator, it's important for me to remain neutral. And I hope that you would ask me for a recess if you feel at any time that I'm not being neutral or if I've made you uncomfortable. Part of the process is I might have to ask you guys some hard questions at times, so please don't think that's me not being neutral. But again, if you feel uncomfortable or if you feel like I'm slanted in any ways, you can feel free to let me know. We can talk about that in private. And one part of being neutral is that I should not have any prior relationships with either of you. And I've been here for a while, but my memory's far from perfect, so I don't think I've met either of you before, but no, okay. Do you think we'd have any mutual acquaintances maybe that would cause me to not be neutral?
No.
No? Okay. I know this is getting a little bit long, but there's just a couple other things that I needed to tell you about with the process. Everything that happens in mediation is confidential and privileged. What that means is that everything said here today between the three of us cannot be used as evidence for a lawsuit. There's a couple exceptions, like you can't use mediation to injure or threaten another person, or you can't use mediation to commit or cover up a crime. With those exceptions, though, everything that we share, you can rest assured that it'll stay confidential and privileged, but that, of course, there has to be an agreement between the three of us that we will indeed keep that information confidential. So will you both be willing to do that today?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sounds great. Now, there may be some times that I will have to meet with you privately, and if I feel that I need to do that, or if you feel like you need to meet with me privately, what I'll do is I'll meet with one of you, and then I'll meet with the other one afterwards, just to see how the process is going. And in those individual meetings, there's an extra layer of confidentiality, so that means if I meet with either of you, I won't share in that private meeting what we talk about with the other person. That is unless you decide that you want to share that or you tell me I can share that. So if we have to meet one-on-one, rest assured that that'll be just between us, unless you tell me otherwise. So there's just a couple ground rules that I like to establish through the process tonight. Is first, please don't interrupt one another. I provided you each with a pen and a piece of paper. Sometimes something that the other party may say will spark something in your mind. Feel free to write that down, because we'll kind of ping pong between the two of you, and I'll give you ample time to talk if there's something that the other party said that makes you want to respond. Also, please be respectful in how you address each other. It's kind of part of the mediation process, but no matter how much you disagree, I just ask that we stay respectful. So during the process and while you're talking to me, I'll be taking some notes. Don't think I'm not listening. I'm just writing down some important issues that we're talking about. And then because today's confidential, I'll destroy my notes afterwards. So in a moment, I'll have you start sharing each of your sides of the mediation and the facts that have brought you here today. But are there any questions that either of you have about what I've discussed thus far? I know it can tend to be a lot up front. Okay, sounds great. So are you guys ready to work together with my assistants to try to resolve your dispute tonight?
Yes.
Good. Okay, and usually what I do is I start with the party who initiated the mediation, which is Ross here, initiated the mediation. Is that okay with you, Courtney?
Yep, that's
Okay, and once Ross is finished, then we'll come back and let you describe your side too. So Ross, if you would please start and just tell me a little bit about what brought you here tonight.
Okay. Ms. Taylor and I signed a lease
Okay.
for her portion of the duplex that I had built 10 years ago.
Okay.
The lease included a monthly payment of $800 and $800 security payment
Okay.
deposit. She has been a good tenant and has paid me on time until 1st of November.
Okay.
On the 1st of November, instead of receiving a check for the rent, I received a letter from her that had 4 grievances on it. The first one was that the people that share the duplex on the other side are noisy and loud. And she's called me on that several times, and I did go to see the people over there.
Okay.
The second was that there was a broken window. Well, the first I heard about it was in the letter, so I couldn't fix it, I didn't know anything about it.
Okay.
The third was that the heat was a problem in the her side of the duplex. Well, I say it's only 10 years old. I'm still, of course, paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never had a complaint about that yet. So, first I've heard of that was in the letter. And then the final thing, the fourth thing on there was that I'm providing preferential treatment to people that share the duplex. And now, like I said, I've talked to the people on the other side. I didn't know anything about the window and the heat, and I do not give the other side preferential treatment. And what I'd really like to do is get my rent.
Okay.
That's it in a nutshell.
Okay. Is that all that you want to talk about right now?
I think that that's kind of, there's some other things that have happened. I will tell you that the preferential treatment might be because the people on the other side put a hole in the wall, and I had to send people, a carpenter, painter over there to fix it. That's the only time that people have gone over to the other side that, and since they did put a hole in it, it was on D-Days, and you know, D-Days is kind of strange. It's strange for a lot of things, but it's also strange for a landlord trying to keep his property up. And so we're probably a little bit rowdy. If you're going to put a hole in the wall, you're probably just a little noisy. And, so I can understand D-Days. But I think that I ought to be paid the rent. And I'll see if I can work that out with Ms. Taylor to get that, and we can see about working to alleviate the other problems that are there. come to a give and take on it, because there's two things that are kind of tough about being a landlord. First one is empty apartment, right?
Yeah.
If it's empty apartment, I'm not making any money. I'm not even able to afford to pay for the construction costs of the building if one of them's empty. So it behooves me to keep you there if I can. I really think that. But the other thing that's even worse than having an empty apartment is having tenants in the apartment that are rowdy and destroy things and don't. Until November, Ms. Taylor paid on time every time. So I think that it benefits me for her to stay. And I think that we might be able to come up, I hope we can come up with some solution to make that happen.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing your side of the story, Ross. And Courtney, now I'll let you share your side of the story, and then if we need to come back and forth, we can after that. So Courtney, will you tell me your side of the dispute?
Yes, I moved into this duplex on August 1st when my lease began. Shortly thereafter, the other half of the duplex moved in as well, about a week before classes started, so sometime in August. They threw a huge party that first weekend of school, and I already had, oh great, this is what the year is going to be like. And pretty much every weekend since then, Thursday through Saturday, is like a bar downtown next door. They have parties that are loud until 2, 3, 4 in the morning every weekend. I've tried, I'm sure you've gotten sick of my numerous phone calls tattletaling on the neighbors, but I would like to go to law school. I live by myself and pay rent for a single person so that I can have a quiet, peaceful, steady environment, and they've been inhibiting that for me. I did withhold rent on November 1st and accompanied with a note. My first complaint being the neighbors that it's not ideal for me to be living and paying for a place that I hardly can even be at and study because they're so loud. Over the D-Days weekend, they did something to the window in my kitchen. There was glass all over. I didn't report it right away because I had called Mr. Lawrence at about 2 in the morning that night, complaining about the party. Previously I called or waited until the next week, dinner time, so that way I wasn't being too burdensome, but I didn't feel like anything was really being addressed to fix the problem, so I wanted to call while the party was happening. He didn't seem overly thrilled that I called at 2 in the morning, which I probably wouldn't be either, but he seemed upset, so I didn't want to call back. A few hours later when I noticed that the window had been broken by the neighbors that night. So that was my second complaint. The third, naturally following that the heat in the duplex can't keep up with my broken window in my kitchen right now. I'm sure my Mid-American bill will be very high this month. And then my fourth was that I do see work consistently at the neighbors, and I feel like my problems are never addressed, but their problems seem to be being addressed.
Okay. Anything else at this time?
I think those are my concerns.
Okay. I have a couple questions for each of you, if it's okay. Courtney, I'll start with you. You said you saw work done at your neighbor's duplex. Can you describe those instances for me?
I just saw workers. I don't really know exactly what they were doing. I'm gathering they were probably fixing a hole in the wall at this point, but that's all I know is that I have seen workers there numerous times.
Numerous times, so more than 1 or 2 times?
Yeah,
Okay.
a few times.
And you said your neighbors broke the window. Were you up when that happened, or did you come home, or how do you know that they broke it, or are you suspecting they did?
I'm suspecting it. I was up downstairs walking around at about 2 in the morning when I called, and then saw that there had been a bunch of drunk party guests walking around outside, tried to go back to bed, and then when I woke up first thing in the morning, I noticed broken glass in my kitchen and the broken window.
Okay. And you said the heat issues, I know that was in your complaint that I got. You think the heat issues are due to that broken window? You said your heater couldn't keep up with it?
I don't know, I haven't noticed a huge issue, otherwise it's mainly been with the broken window. I had cardboard there, but it's just not keeping up with covering the cardboard now.
And then Ross, I think she answered one of my questions when the lease started. It started in August. And then when you were talking about the noisy neighbors, you said that you've tried to do something about it in the past. I didn't know if you could explain to me maybe how you've handled that or what you've done, if anything.
I did go over and talk to them primarily when they reported that they put a hole in the wall.
Okay.
And so I went over to check that out. Then I talked to them about them being noisy, and they said it's on the weekends. And it's not that they're, screaming and yelling all week long, every night, but on the weekends, they do tend to relax. Well, after I saw the wall, I explained to them that that's coming out of their security deposit because they did it, and they don't need to relax that bad.
And how did that
But-
conversation go?
Well, there was no problem. They know it's coming out of their security deposit, so it's being fixed, or it's been fixed. They were not very sympathetic to Ms. Taylor's request because they felt it was a weekend and they were in college, and I went, you guys got to draw some lines. And they went, which I'm not sure really got the job done. Now, I work all day. My whole job isn't to sit there and take care of the apartment. I've got a full-time job. And the only time I can really do most of those things is taking care of the apartments in the early evening. And I appreciate the calls being in the evening, except for the one at 2 o'clock, and I didn't appreciate that one at all. But I don't have, because I'm working all day, I don't have a lot of spare time to go and take care of them. But I did talk to them. They weren't very concerned. I think that what would be better is if we talk to them and set up a time, and I'll set up a time in the early evening when everybody can get together, and maybe we can do this together.
Okay. Yeah, it seems to me that I think we'll be able to work together and figure something out. Is there anything after Ross has spoke a little bit more, Courtney, that you would like to share?
Just that's my primary concern here too, is I know you don't have time to deal with these neighbors, and I don't expect you to babysit them all day, but I also don't have the time to be listening to them relax 3 nights a week on the weekend.
Well, great. It sounds like at least we have a mutual ground of, I think we both, or both of you realize there needs to be something done. So I'll see if I can't help you guys find something that's agreeable for both of you. That hopefully will get this resolved so you can still stay in your apartment and you can still keep a tenant, which is important to both of you. So at this time, it sounds like I've had heard a lot of different issues from each of you, and I'd like to write them on the board, and then after I get done writing them down, if I've missed anything, feel free to let me know and we can write those up. And after we get a good long list of issues, we'll talk about where we're going next. So I realize, is your pen broken or?
No,
Oh,
I just
okay.
didn't have anything to write so
Okay,
far.
no, that's perfectly fine. I didn't know if it was broken or not, so. And I do write in cursive, so if you cannot read my handwriting, do feel free to let me know. neighbors. We have a window. And is it, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just put heat underneath the window. It sounds like the inadequate heat was from the window there. And then maybe under communication, I'll put notice. It sounds to me like, I'll call the people in the other half of the duplex, the neighbors, the problems that I've heard with the, probably the preferential treatment or the loud noise complaints, the window and the heat. Sounds to me like communication, maybe between the two of you, if there's any future problems. Courtney, how you would let Ross know that wouldn't affect his job. But then also just the two of you, how you can keep talking throughout the span of your lease. So are there any other issues that you wanted to resolve today that I didn't recognize for you?
I want to get paid.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and write compensation. And the duplex, it was important for, so we'll just do the landlord tenant interest and the landlord being paid, Ross, and then Courtney as a tenant, you being able to go home. So I think we can do those together. We can add to this later if there comes another issue. But at this point, some mediators like to list them in order. And I like to just maybe start off with one, because sometimes one issue will segue into another. So would it be agreeable with each of you to maybe start with the window? Would that be an okay place to start with? So we'll start there, and then we can decide where to go from there. So at this time, I want to change gears a little bit and talk about interests. Interests are something that's an underlying interest that you have in the dispute as a whole. And I guess I'll give you an example to kind of explain interests a little bit more. And each time I change gears, I'll try to give you an example of where I helped my younger sister try to decide after high school what she wanted to do to pursue as a career. So some of the interests when I was talking to her about what she wanted to do as a career would be enjoyment in a new job, whether or not she'd get benefits, maybe the cost of obtaining an education, being close to home, things of that nature. So it's not really the issues themselves that we have listed on the board, it's really what's important to you in this dispute. So it can be a combination of a lot of things, and what I'd like to do is just give you each some time to maybe write down some interests that are important to you in this dispute, and then we'll ping pong back and forth and we'll write those on the board. So go ahead and take all the time you need to write down some interests. Either of you need more time, or?
I think we're
Okay,
good.
all right.
I'm good.
So right interest over here. Okay, and Ross, since I started with you, Courtney, I'll start with you this time. What's an interest that you have in Mrs. Field?
My first interest and my primary interest is I just want a quiet, relaxing, habitable place to live.
Okay. Maybe could I kind of sounds like you have a lot of issues in there. Can I maybe just put comfort? Maybe just
Yes,
having comfort at your big
comfortable.
best? Okay. Okay, and Ross?
Uh, I'd like to keep the duplex occupied because I need compensation from it.
Okay. Compensation is a good interest, and although I don't really think, I mean, it's an issue, but when you said compensation over here, I think it really is more of an interest of yours to keep someone there and to get paid. So is it okay if I move compensation from there over here?
Absolutely.
Okay. Oops. And Courtney, is it okay if I take duplex here because we have comfort over there?
Yeah.
And Courtney, do you have another interest?
I guess just in general, I would like our tenant-landlord relationship to come out of this better than we started with. That I can tell him general concerns about the apartment and not be concerned about how we react to it.
Okay. Maybe just, yeah, the relationship, like you worded, was great. Okay, and Ross?
I think that goes along with, I'd like to keep the tenants satisfied.
Great.
Not necessarily happy, I'm not sure I can do that, but at least satisfied with with her portion or their portion of the duplex.
Do you think that's part of a relationship, or?
I think it is.
Okay, part of a relationship, good. At least there's a mutual interest between the two of you to work together for each other, but as far as that being satisfied in each of your roles. So we'll stick with relationship. At any point you feel like satisfied needs to be up there, we can put it up there as well. Courtney, did you have another one?
No, those are my primary interests.
Okay.
Well, I've got an interest in the upkeep and the care of the facility.
Okay.
The way it is now in the duplexes, Ms. Taylor takes care of hers, it's always in good shape. On the other side, however, it's, like I say, I've had to repair or I had to have the wall repaired, fixed, painted. And for a long term on the facility, it makes it very hard. So in this case, I'm much more interested in keeping Ms. Taylor as a tenant than I am the others. However, I do want to keep both sides occupied.
There's a couple things I heard in there. Like one of them maybe aesthetics. Like not only do you want it to be fixed, but you want it to look nice as well. I mean, it's been there for about 10 years, but being nice will help you keep tenants. And then maybe just maintain would be another interest to, from tenant to tenant, keep the duplex in the shape that you believe is rentable and worth your investment. And Courtney, would aesthetics maybe be an interest of yours too, since it's your duplex?
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of goes to your concerns about the look of the broken window. Okay. Let me see if I have it. Oh, there was one more, Ross, when I was listening to you talk earlier. I could hear when you were talking about, you was talking something about being reliable. the neighbors being reliable for maybe being loud, being loud at times. You notice that you're also reliable for some changes, but that you also have a job. And then if there's anything that Courtney feels needs to bring to your attention, she's reliable to bring those to your attention within that reasonable time too. So what kind of reliability with each other's actions maybe? Would that be an interest as well?
Sure.
Okay, so the first area that we'll start with is the window and the heat. So let's start with the window itself, and if that doesn't solve the heat issue, we can break those apart. But now, starting with the window, I would like you guys to switch gears one more time, and we're going to do some options. What options are is there options that you think that are workable, maybe something you would never agree to. It doesn't have to be anything that you know that you could agree to with the other partner. It just has to be an option. So, for example, back to my younger sister, when we were trying to figure out a career for her, and options are limitless. She could be a chef, a hairdresser, a lawyer, a dentist, or a flight attendant, or even as crazy as working on a cruise ship. I mean, really the options are limitless. So, and I want to challenge you both to be creative. Not everyone would think about being a flight attendant or working on a cruise ship, but those are the kind of creative options that maybe aren't as obvious, but maybe they've worked for both of you. So let's try and see if we can generate a good long list of options regarding the window. And I'll give you both time and try to come up with at least 5 options, and then we'll put them on the board. And then after we put all of them on the board, we'll evaluate them. And by evaluate, I mean, if my sister hates flying or she has a fear of flying, well, maybe we take flight attendant off her career list at that point. But being a flight attendant is always an option. So go ahead and take a few minutes and think of some options regarding the window. Ross, have you had enough time?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I'll go, again, I'll go back and forth with options with the window. If I write in red, are you both able to read that? Okay. And Courtney, I started with you first with interest, so Ross, what's an option you have?
Well, I'd like to make a few statements about the window.
Okay.
If it was vandalism, like she said, then, and if it occurs again, if she could call the police so that we could get some kind of report, because if it came from the outside by her neighbor, then I can get them to pay for it. We can ask them to pay for it, but I'm not sure that's going to happen after a month
Okay.
because it's pretty late.
Okay.
But the police should have been notified.
Okay, and that's something, it of course does deal with the window, but maybe when we come to communication and notice, we'll make sure that we bring up those concerns that you've shared.
Now, if it came from the outside, like she said, then I've got insurance, and so I think that if she didn't initiate the break, then she shouldn't be held responsible for it. I think I can get the insurance company to pay for it if they determine that it was vandalism caused.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and write that as your first option, insurance, oops. And I'll put that contingency if determined. Broken from outside, or vandalism, you said. Sound okay?
Yep.
Okay, so now we have one from Ross. Courtney, do you have an option?
I also had, I don't think that the window should be fixed at my expense. Obviously, I know myself that I didn't break the window, but I have concerns if the insurance company thinks it's, vandalism. I think any outside force or anything other than me causing the window broken shouldn't be my expense to fix it.
Okay, so I'm hearing, even if the insurance won't cover it, an option would be at Ross's expense.
Or the neighbors if they concede to some,
Okay.
knowing the window's broken.
I can write those into two options. Ross pays for window and neighbors pay for window. Would that sound okay? Okay. Ross, do you have another option?
Yeah, if the insurance does not pay for it, and because it's been so long in being notified, I'd be willing to split the cost
Okay.
with Ms. Taylor.
Mrs. Taylor, okay.
Because if not, then it's just coming straight out of my pocket. And
And Courtney, I spell it right, Sue?
Yes.
Okay. There's some varying spelling, so I wasn't quite sure. Ross, did I spell your name right? Okay. Okay, so if not covered by insurance, split repair with Courtney, okay. Courtney, do you have any other options?
I would just like to have a space heater in my apartment until this solution is fixed. I know they're a fire hazard and I'm not supposed to have one, but it's freezing in there right now.
Okay, it sounds like heat may be a little sub-issue on its own. I'll make sure I write heat up here separately and we can once we kind of evaluate some of the options in regard to the window, then we can talk about what to do with heat in the meantime. Is that okay? Okay. So any other options relating to just the window? Okay, Ross, do you have any more options relating to the window?
If it's determined that it was broken from the inside out, then I would expect for Ms. Taylor to pay for it.
Okay.
And if not, I'd like for it to come out of her security deposit.
Okay. And Courtney, did that develop any more options for you? Or?
No.
Okay. Ross, just a couple questions that I have regarding your insurance. Have you made any claims, or do you know if there's a deductible or anything of that nature?
The first that I heard was in the letter that I received that it was broken, so I haven't had much of a chance to get a lot of things done on it. Yes, there is a deductible, and of course I'd be expected to cover that.
Okay. And then you expressed some concern about, because it's been around about a month since the window's been broken. Do you know if that would cause any problems specifically with your insurance coverage, or?
It could cause a problem in determining where the break came from.
Okay. Okay.
Other than that, I wouldn't think it'd be, they would sure ask me about it, but
Okay.
I think the hardest thing would be the determination of the location of the break.
Okay, well, it seems like we have a list of 5 here. And what I like to start off doing is, I started with Ross first, so now I'll start with Courtney. Is there any on this list that you think is absolutely not feasible from your perspective?
I guess like with number 5, like I know I didn't break the window. Obviously, I'm not expecting him to just take my word for it as is. But I guess I'm not aware of the procedure of the insurance company with what all that entails. Like, even if it's undeterminable, like I don't think I should be held liable to pay for the window because I didn't break it.
Okay. And hearing that, Ross, is there any to you that you think is not feasible from your perspective?
I don't like 2 very much.
Okay.
Because that it seems to have some, it just has been a while, and one, you get reported, and then the onus is solely on me for something that I had nothing to do with.
And a general question to either of you, would either of you know the general cost of that replacement window? I think you said it was in the kitchen.
Yes, it's for my seat.
So is it, if it's a small or mid-sized window, would either of you have an idea of maybe the cost of replacing it?
Probably an Anderson window, because that's what I built those at, because they do give really good insulation when they aren't broken.
Yeah.
And they do get, I think it costs about $450 a window.
Okay, okay. Just so we're knowing kind of maybe a roundabout, knowing that it could go up or down, but just a range that we're thinking. Okay, so now we know what options are not feasible for each of you. Courtney, which one do you think for you would be the most feasible as an agreement on the window?
Well, with my bias towards neighbors, I'd like to see them be responsible for the window being broken.
And I'll put a C plus there. And Ross, which one do you think is most feasible for you?
I'd like to see whoever broke it pay for it.
Okay.
Okay. And so, having dealt with the neighbors before, I know that there's a decent chance that it was them.
Okay.
That would be my preference, I just don't think it's gonna happen.
Okay. It sounds to me like, because, you know, with reliability being one of our interests, and compensation as well, is with this first option, the insurance coverage. If the insurance covers coverage, and if they examine it and determine that it was vandalism, what would you do at that point? Would there be any recourse against the neighbors, Ross, or?
I think it's been too long since I don't think that it'd be a very good case to find out where it came from.
Okay.
It's just been too long.
Okay. So it looks like, so the most workable option, it sounds like, Ross, is something to do with insurance, either 1 or 4. Which one do you think would be probably the best from your perspective?
Probably 1.
Probably 1?
Okay. Because I do believe that Courtney didn't break it herself.
Okay.
But I'm not sure the insurance is going to buy off on that either.
Okay. Well, let's see, Courtney, are you agreeable to option 1 at all, or Ross, are you agreeable to option 3?
Well, I prefer option 3, but
Yeah.
that's a hope. It's not a course of action.
How do you feel about that, Courtney?
I agree, I would assume that they probably wouldn't fess up to the window being broken. But, yeah, I have no problems with the insurance.
Okay. So it sounds like to me, it's at least agreeable at this point that Ross, you can at least check with the insurance, see if they can come out and look at the window. If it's determined to be vandalism and they pay, it'd be the deposit, and then they could replace that window. And then Courtney, if it's vandalism and they cover, it would be to no cost to you. Is that an agreeable option for the window with both of you?
And I'll pay the deductible.
Okay, and Ross pays deductible. Okay. So, what we'll do is, all the agreements are tentative at this point, so we'll write them on the side of the board. And we will address heat next. How to maybe deal with the heat in a situation between now and between when the insurance company comes. So could you please each write down maybe 3 or 4 options on how to deal with the heat in the interim while I rewrite this on to the side. Good. Before we moved to heat, as I was rewriting this option we just tentatively agreed to, I realized that they'll make an insurance claim that Ross said you pay the deductible. I have it determined vandalism, Courtney does not pay. We did talk a little bit, if the insurance company comes back undetermined, or since it's been a month, if they determine that they can't specifically say that it's vandalism, I wanted to make sure that we had an agreement what to do in that situation, just because I'd hate for us to, a month from now, the insurance isn't clear and have each of you not have an agreement to go back on. Ross, do you have any proposals if the insurance comes back and says that they can't determine if it's vandalism or not?
Well, I did put up on the option
Yeah.
before that if the insurance won't pay, that I think instead of it just being me, that we could split the cost of getting it repaired.
Okay, would that be, are you proposing the whole cost above the deductible, or
Well, if
the whole
the
cost of
insurance
the
ain't
window?
gonna pay, there is no
Okay.
deductible there,
Okay.
so.
So is it okay if we switch gears and maybe just do a little option generating on if it is comeback vandalism? So Ross, you're proposing, so if it's undetermined or it comes back that they think it may have been from Courtney's apartment, that you split the cost with Courtney. Courtney, sorry, do you have any other suggestions maybe if it comes back undetermined from the insurance company?
No, I guess still I'm resorting to the fact that no, I didn't break the window, so it's hard for me to justify paying a few hundred when I know that I didn't break the window.
So an option of yours would be to not pay even if,
Right, or I understand, you've got some interest in here too, like, I don't know that 50/50 would be fair, but,
do you have another proposal maybe besides 50/50?
something, I don't know, maybe closer to 25.
Like a 75/25, okay, I'll make that. 75 being, okay. Ross, did you have any other options here?
I find it a little bit difficult to just come up with 3/4 of the payment for something that it's clear that I had nothing to do with. And I thought splitting the cost was a pretty generous way to look at it.
Maybe what I'll do is, we'll hold off on the heat and then maybe both just take a couple more minutes and try to really come up with maybe two or three more options just in this area, if that's okay. Remember, you can try to be creative, it doesn't have